So hang on one second. All right, so like I said, my name is Elsa. You can find out all about me at my website, pleasureforhealth.com. There's all sorts of resources on there. I do a blog, a podcast, a couple of online courses, some coaching, different options for working with me, and lots of information really there for you to delve into. So in this talk, we're going to talk about shutdown. And another word for shutdown might be dissociation. And you might resonate with either of those or both of them in your own life. What is shutdown and why do we do it? Well, some of you are probably really aware of the trauma response. It's talked about a lot now. We have, freeze and fight or flight. And some of you might have even heard of appease being kind of a new, the fawn, you try to, be nice or kind of fawn or suck up to somebody so that they don't hurt you. That's a trauma response as well. But we're going to specifically look at the shutdown response, which is typically what happens when your nervous system is overwhelmed to the point of you can't even fight or flee or act really at all. And so you basically just shut down. And what it does is it's a great response if you are, a deer trying to escape from a lion and, you get caught and you just play dead and maybe the lion gets tired and puts you down for a second and, goes to sleep or whatever, you have an opportunity to spring back to life and run. That could be a really helpful scenario. But for us, especially now, why I picked this topic now was because the kind of stress and trauma that we're all living through in this pandemic, it continually creates the kind of stress that would make us shut down, some of us that are used to doing that, and it does become a habitual response. So if that's kind of your go-to and you've done that a lot, you may be dissociating multiple times an hour, and it can look just like short bursts of just kind of drifting off into space like that. You might just blank for a moment. You might kind of, in a way, we do it when we're driving. If you've ever driven from one part of town to the other and kind of forgotten how you got there, that is kind of a shutdown mode. You were kind of off somewhere else as you were doing something. And it's not always a bad thing. I mean, it often, daydreaming can be that. You can just be kind of off in your own world. You might have kind of that blank stare. You might not be able to talk too much. You may not have the ability to say what you're wanting. So here's where we get into those nuances of why shutdown can be a dangerous place to be living your life out in. Because we don't want to be in a place where we're not able to speak up for ourselves. I was working on a lady at one point. I teach body work, and we were working on the psoas, which is, deep in the belly. It's a muscle that's related to trauma in a lot of ways. And this woman is very empowered. She works with trauma people. She's a therapist, but at that point, she just kind of lost her voice. And so she was telling us about this experience after we practiced this technique, saying right in that moment, I didn't have a voice. I couldn't say no. I couldn't tell my practice partner to ease up or stop. I just kind of froze. I just shut down. And in that moment, you don't feel everything that's happening. You actually release endorphins to kind of numb the pain and the sensation. You might just not really be in your body at all. Your sensory awareness doesn't actually reach your cortex. It gets stopped at your brainstem. And the reason it does, again, is a good adaptation for when you're trying to do something quickly. If we need to respond quickly, the nervous system has, the impulses come in, they get to our brainstem and they go out straight away, in, dangerous, out, run. That's our kind of go-to thing, and it's quick. So we can respond quickly. And that's why all of a sudden you're pounding somebody, or you're running away, or whatever or you're shut down. and those responses happen so quickly. But when we want to actually think about something and have a different way, a different choice, if we actually want to choose what our response is, shutting down, too easily can become a bit of a hazard in our life. We could just be at a parent-teacher night, and the teacher could be telling us, our kid is struggling in math. I've had this one before. Our teacher, someone's struggling in math, and you shut down. It's like everything feels like an attack, and every attack feels like a life or death thing. So it's interesting to notice how quickly we become triggered and how quickly we shut down. And so we haven't really taken in what the teacher's saying. And, unfortunately, that means that we're not able to respond. We're not able to, explain what's going on, or even take in, then we go home and we're like, what was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to help them with their homework or not? And you just forgot everything, like you went blank. So, it's not great in that, although it might not be too dangerous. If you are on a date with somebody new and they mention something, or you all of a sudden are triggered and you shut down, it's kind of one of those times where you're walking down the street and then you just kind of go with the person and you don't know why you ended up in their car, and not that was something I did, but I can relate to that shutting down. Like, I just wasn't aware of where I was, and I wasn't aware of what I was doing or what I was choosing, and I just kind of went along with. And that can be a shutdown response, and it could be dangerous in those situations. It could be something we need to really, look out for and begin to notice in ourselves. So a lot of my work, with clients and women that have had trauma is just to start noticing what is happening. What am I doing in these situations? When did I blank out and when did I not? When did I shut down? Because we want to be able to choose differently and create different habits. And sometimes dissociating is a habit. If something's just, I'll tell you a personal example. I have 4 children. They're almost all the same age. And when they all talk at once, I quite often will listen. Like, I'll really try and listen for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden it's kind of overload. And I find this kind of overwhelming desire to just like flick through my phone or just kind of space out. And I haven't heard anything they've said. And my kids are pretty good now. They're like, Mom, you're not listening. And, I will try to negotiate some way of listening. But in that moment, just the overwhelm of having too many people speak to me at once can make me shut down. And then I haven't heard anything and I'm just kind of blanking out. And so, if this was an important work meeting, this wouldn't be an awesome time to do that. So all of these responses, are natural responses. So first of all, I want to normalize the fact that we have these responses. We're not broken. We're not, if we dissociate a lot, it's not that we have some kind of disease, but we are actually responding in the way that our nervous system has been programmed to respond. So what we want to do is notice how, what kind of triggers are eliciting that response, and perhaps, working on the different triggers and then noticing, oh, I dissociated right there. Let me come back because this really isn't as dangerous as I thought, And also to notice, where can we lessen our triggers for ourselves too, because this dissociation response does release endorphins in the body. And I've talked before about how addictive that can become. So you can become a little bit addicted to having a lot going on, dissociating, having that kind of rush of, endorphins that help you not feel what's going on for you. And, it's like a drug. You can get addicted to that. So for that reason as well, it's not ideal to spend all our time there. And so in this pandemic, for instance, you might find that you get in that kind of response every time you listen to the news, every time someone comes up to you on the street, or, every time you're asked for some papers when you go into the cafe, all of these things might trigger that type of response. and you're kind of having that shutdown all the time, and it's leading to a lot of people feeling, so it leads to depression, chronic depression. It leads to chronic illness. It leads to chronic pain syndromes. Why? Because it's shutting down our pain system, our sensory feeling system, which means that we're not aware of what our body needs or doesn't need in that moment. We're not aware of what we need, and we're just kind of automatons going through life. So in my sense, I don't want to spend all my time in dissociation or shutdown. I want to have it work when I need it, but most of the time I would like to have choice around, being able to stay present in a work meeting, or with talking to my kids, or listening to, news in a certain extent. I try to limit my media intake these days, but we want to be able to go out in nature and kind of take in nourishment. We want to have relationships where we can be present and stay present enough to really experience that intimacy that we all crave. So what are some things we can do about this that are that are feasible in our everyday lives? So here's some actually interesting ways of getting back into the present moment, which is, it's all about now. It's all about being present, because these dissociation shutdown things are typically programmed in from, past experiences. So it's like, in the past, this has been dangerous, so now we're going to shut down. So what we want to do is stay present. We want to see what's happening right now and actually work with that. And one way of doing that, we can either use our 5 senses in the outer world to kind of get grounded in the present moment of where we are. Or we can learn to turn our awareness inside our body and be aware of sensations in the interior of our body. So for a lot of traumatized people, the outer sensory exercises and grounding techniques are more easy and less triggering than going inwards, because feeling what's going on inside, as you can imagine, can be, a lot more intense, or perhaps a lot more unfamiliar if you're not used to feeling what's going on inside your body. So when I work with really traumatized people, we usually start with the external sensory things. So, our 5 senses, we have touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight. So you can somebody actually made a sensory kit that they, a first aid kit that they take with them or have in their car. I don't know where they have it, but I thought it was a great idea to have a sensory kit. So something that you can touch. So what would that be? Well, here I have a couple things. So this is a body brush, and body brushing is great for your health anyway. If you've never done it, it increases your circulation, helps with like temperature control and regulation in your body, wakes you up, sloughs off old skin cells, does great things. It also is a great sensory stimulation. And if you just brush anywhere on your body, you become like more instantly aware of that part of your body. Like you feel it. You feel the brush on your skin. If you do it somewhere, a little more tender, you can feel it right away, and it kind of like, you can almost feel yourself kind of, whoa. So if you do some brushing on your body, this can bring you back to the present moment, plus do all those other things. What do I have? If you don't have that, handy dandy paintbrush, something sort of sensory. What else do I have here? Back scratcher can be great, just to kind of scratch or get, you can kind of feel your body somehow, feel something. So you can use that. So these are some ideas of sensation things that you can quickly do. You could tap your face. You can, tap on your body. You can like stroke down your arms. These are all grounding techniques of touch that can really help you just, oh yeah, I'm here right now. So scents, you can get little bottles of essential oils, and, just a quick sniff of a scent, especially if it's a scent that you particularly resonate with. You could go in, sometimes it's fun to go in the shops and try, do you like orange or lemon or pine, or, what has a good sort of connection for you. And this is an exercise I do with clients a lot, is to find a scent that has a good connection for them, that brings them back into the moment as well. One of those things you can do too is eat something sour, like a lemon slice. Like, can you actually put a lemon slice in your mouth and not be present? I think not. I think it just like, whoa, you get that like total lemony thing, and it brings you back right away. Spicy food, similarly, you know, if you're into spicy food, something like that. The sound, if you just take a moment and actually listen to what can I hear right now in my vicinity, that can be a good way to kind of come back. It's actually a great meditative technique too. If you meditate on, you know, the sound, especially if it's a far away sound, it kind of brings you into that peaceful mode. And the interesting thing about Shutdown is it very quickly comes back to that kind of inner meditative mood, you know, that like really calm place, because you've shut down. And if you can switch into being in your cognitive mind, but keep that parasympathetic nervous system, you know, dominant, so you're in that really calm place, it can actually get you into that quite nicely. So focusing on your breath, slowing down your breathing, focusing on feeling the breath on the upper lip, all those meditative techniques work really great too. Seeing things can be like, look around your room, pick an object. I don't know, I could pick, what do I have here? I have a box of pens. So you pick an object and you describe it for yourself. So, you know, there's a pen with a black top and a red pen and a green pen and some black pencils, black ninja pencils that a friend gave me. And as soon as I'm describing that object, I am immediately bringing my brain back online and getting out of that shutdown response. So you can see how all of those sensory things can actually get you right back into the present moment. And then you can, you know, it's not so that you can spend ages describing your surroundings, although that might be fun, but it brings you back in a couple, you know, very quickly, so that you can actually deal with the situation at hand. And if it's, you know, you're on a date and he's saying, oh, let's go back to my place, and you're thinking, you know, and you're just kind of going along with, and then you catch yourself and you're like, oh, I'm going to notice, you know, the candle on the table and it's got a green candle holder. And then you're like, wait a minute, I don't actually want to go home with this guy tonight. I want to get a taxi, and, you know, maybe I'll see him again another time, but I'm not going, you know, you might just have that moment of reflection, that moment to make a different choice than if you just kind of roll along in your dissociated state. Some other ones that are good are, you know, if you're at home, things like having a song, some music that really grounds you. The voice, you know, some people have a person that they find comforting that can help to calm you and put you into a regulated state. Putting your feet on the bare ground is an awesome one if you can kind of walk around on the grass. I think that's another one where it's hard to be dissociated when you're actually out there putting your feet on the ground. Holding ice cubes is interesting, you know, the sensation of that. What else? Ask for a hug. Well, if you're in a safe place with a safe person, that can be really great. And the other thing to notice too is that we don't always have to, you know, get out of where we are at. If you kind of sometimes like being dissociated, or you just want to ride it out, knowing that you're just kind of out of it, you know, let's say you had to talk to your ex and it just really triggered you, giving yourself an hour in your safe, cozy chair at home with a cup of tea, just to daydream out the window and be dissociated for a while in a safe space, can be really grounding as well. And just let your body like move through that trigger. So that can be helpful too. And that's another thing, you know, we talk about a lot in my programs, is how to create that kind of safe space, how to make it work for us. So there's so many tools like this that are so helpful in kind of helping ourselves, you know, recognize the state that we're in, you know, regulate really quickly, and then be more in choice about what we're choosing, so that, you know, you don't have to shut down all the time. And, I'll tell you that I've worked with a client for years now, about 7 years, with PTSD, severe PTSD. And the way that clients often describe this shutdown is they are like, the world just seems gray. I'm kind of like a ghost in the world. It just doesn't seem to be, there's no joy, there's no sensation, there's no pleasure. And, the many things we did for the first few sessions was just working with these sensory exercises to start becoming aware of being in a body, being in the world, being present, and finding those little pleasures. It really can, my website's called Pleasure for Healing because I really believe that it doesn't need to be a painful process to heal. Some things are painful, sure. Feeling the grief or, the betrayal, that can be painful for sure. But the actual healing that we do can be based in these little pleasure, that tang of something sour or whatever that you're sucking on a lemon. I mean, maybe not everyone finds that pleasureful, but it's definitely sensational. So we can find little ways of not only discovering who we are, but moving and finding these sensory things. So this is a lot of the way that I work with people. And yes, you can do this kind of work on your own, absolutely. And, I always say that having a guide or having a mentor, having somebody that's been through this before can be super helpful, because sometimes you just don't catch things. Sometimes you go a few steps forward and then you get stuck in something and you don't even know what it is, and you kind of end up, sliding back, and you're just kind of grinding your wheels. And so, I'd highly recommend, if this stuff interests you, if it feels like it connects to you and, it's sending sparks of recognition, like, that's me, I want to work with that. I have some spaces available now to work with me one-on-one. You can book a call with me. If you go to ailsakepi.com/apply, you can go straight to my calendar and book a call. We'll just chat about you and what might work for you. And there's no obligation to sign up for anything. Honestly, it's just a pleasure to talk through your situation and to see where you're at on your journey. And if what I have might be helpful, I might offer something and I might not. And there might be other things I offer for you. So, there's no loss in signing up for a call. I'd love to speak with any of you, especially from the group here in Facebook, and any of you that have watched this much on YouTube as well. Check it out and take up the offer. Why not, right? We only have one life. We are all in this collective trauma space, and it's easy to shut down right now. It's easy to isolate. It's easy to become kind of in the shadow of the hermit archetype, where we distrust everyone and everything. We don't want to go out anymore. It's easy to get stuck there. How do we move and be alive in this time? Well, we learn how to be aware. We learn how to be present. We learn how to be in the now, as Eckhart Tolle said. So if that interests you, do reach out, and I'd be more than happy to chat with you. Hope this has been helpful today, and you try some of those little sensory kit ideas for you, and let me know how they work for you. Comment on the video and let me know how that goes. So again, you can find out all about me on my website, pleasureforhealth.com. I'll put the link to book a call in the comments, and I look forward to speaking with you.